some of those things. They kind of stayed to themselves, so those things didn't happen. Mayor Hill said, this shows the fire, the tragedy, said this shows a possible need for a water line run to Central Addition. Really? Yeah, I think so too. I want to take this, I timed myself and it took about 1 minute and 40 seconds. I'm going to read you some names. Now this is not all of the people that lived in Central Addition. But as I went through the different census, I was able to write down some that I thought I wasn't repeating. And there may be some here that you can relate to. Maybe you're relatives of some of them. Maybe some of them is you. Adams, Benj, Hill, Burdett, Hamlin, Morgan, Skinner, Harvard, Buck, Enlow, Headley, Clark, LeGrand, Fogel, Pilcher, Carter, Flanagan, Van Busker, as my family. Albertson, Lewis, Dorn, Hull, Raines, Hartley, Bertlow, Lowe. That was the other half of my grandma's. Goodwin. That was the family after my great-grandma lost her husband and she married Goodwin. Troxel, Wilt, Potter, Helmick, Cloyd, Watts, Boffer, Bivens, Adamson, Klein, Davis, Fitzgerald, Harper, Hennessy, Lovelace, Thomas, Wagner, Crickbaum, Dunn, Kinman, Schaefer, Clyburn, G, Cox, Ash, Keller, Mahaffey, Offutt, Green, Trainer, Ruby, Creighton, Dyer, Ellis, Abbott, Anderson, Soretti, Dickerson, Thomas, Bennett, George, Him, Lumsden, Free, Bertlow, Crandall, Byram, Phillips, Quick, Runyon, Shields, Martz, Flackiff, Welsh, Way, Williams, Bright, Bradshaw, Crawford, Clemens, Blummer, Howard, Gillespie, Jones, Kopp, Sapp, Smith, Steele, Walker, Workman, Yates, Fleming, Archer, Beecham, Selwood, White, Tackett, Walton, Gilliam, Washington, Trainer, Ayers, and Quick. Now that was from the 1940 census. You probably heard some of those names, and some of them you probably haven't heard, and you probably never will. There are some interesting sidelines that just as I was going through here, researching this, like Brian Morgan, who was former city councilman, his grandpa, Bob Morgan, in 1940, he was 14 years old. He lived in Central Addition. His family rented their home. I think they paid $8 a month. Just down the street, on another street, was a lady named Dorothy. Her name was Harlan, Dorothy Harlan. They ended up getting together, and as a result, we have Brian Morgan. So he goes back to those days. Doug Potter used to write for the Courier. He has the Ottumwa, We Love Ottumwa on Facebook. His grandpa, Roy Potter, lived there. Now in me, my tie goes back to 1922. My great-grandpa, George and Anna Van Busker, moved into Central Addition. But also living in Central Addition was my grandmother's parents, Fred and Stella Lowe. So both sides were there. And of course my grandpa and grandma, Clarence and Pearl Van Busker, they raised me since I was 3 weeks old. So our tie goes back to then. My mom lived there. I was raised by my grandparents. Now my grandpa had the foresight to move out of Central, and he moved out. Now I question his wisdom now today. He wanted to get away from the floods. So what did he do? He moved to the other side of the river.
We did too. We went to Central Addition to Sherman
This is
Street,
the house
just
down
other side
here.
of
I
the
don't know
river.
if you can see it,
And you
but
got flooded.
that's the house. It was an old office building for the sand company that was over there. I still own that 7 acres along the river. But in 47, that's me right there. I don't know if you can tell. 9 months old. That's my mom. And that's my grandma. She didn't want pictures of the river like Central Addition people I was down in. But the house, Grandpa bought that and the 7 acres for $300 to get away from the flooding. He moved on this side of the river. Now, if you look at that, that's what we call moving up. 47. That house washed away. You can see the trees there past it, but the trees caught the house and it didn't go on down the river. Grandpa hooked onto it with a team of horses, and he put logs in front, and he would pull it and take the back log. But again, he used good wisdom. He pulled it about 100 yards farther from the river. Same elevation. He pulled it about 100 yards farther. So all through high school, and I lived there, we didn't get electricity till I was, I think, a junior in high school. We didn't have indoor plumbing, but every year we got flooded. We didn't move out unless it got up in the house. And the last time I remember we had to move out, I was a junior, 1962. We had to move out. Now on this next part, I should give a disclaimer. I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, and I don't want anyone to get mad at me, because there's things I'm going to mention that maybe if they're relatives of yours, if you don't know it, you don't want to hear it. But the first one I'm going to tell you is I did this research. Aunt Marie lived in Central Addition. I went through the 1922 city directory, and it lists what your job is. And it said, Marie Van Busker, vocation, stripper. It said stripper for Tequila and Marks. Now, I didn't look any farther. I don't know if that's a bar, or I don't know if that's a paint company. But you find out some things that maybe you don't want to find out. Well, Clarence Van Busker was my grandfather. And in your lifetime, a lot of fortunate things happen to you, and sometimes some things are bad. Well, when I was 3 weeks old, my mom and dad separated, and my grandpa and grandma took me, and if there's one guiding thing in my life that I would have to say was the biggest plus, that was it. Grandpa's children, his 2 boys and his girl, were in trouble all the time. They were in prison, they were in jail, and it was like Grandpa and Grandma got an opportunity to start over. Okay, we learned a lot from these guys here that went to Eldora and Fort Madison and Animos, and now this ain't gonna happen. And Grandpa never spanked me, but I was scared to death. So that was the good thing that happened to me. But even though he did some good things, there are some questionable things. Grandpa, living in Central Addition, remember, these are tough times. There's not a lot of work for some people who didn't have much skill, and Grandpa was not really skilled. So he made home brew. I know, you're not supposed to do that, but he made home brew. And his delivery method was just unbelievable. My mom was a baby. Grandma would wrap my mom in a blanket. Grandpa would stick the bottle in there. Grandma would walk down the street and she'd show somebody, and they would look at it and take the bottle out, put the quarter in, and go on. But the police knew Grandpa did this, so policemen, when they come to Central Addition, were not wanted. They weren't needed. We take care of our own in Central Addition. If somebody steals from us, arresting them won't help. We need to break them from stealing. So we'll take care of it. And that's really what happened. Well, the policeman would slip down the alley behind Grandpa's place, and there was a chicken coop there. And he would